Hello there guys, and welcome back to a brand new Jedi Fallen Order video, and today I'm going to be discussing the top 10 features I want to see in a Fallen Order sequel. Now let me know in the comments below what you would like to see in a second game, and if you agree with me on my points. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you do enjoy as well, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss out on any more content. So on May 5th, there was an EA earnings call where CEO Andrew Wilson said that Jedi Fallen Order was the first in a new franchise. So basically this means that we will probably be seeing at least another game with Cal Kestis and the crew, or maybe even more further down the line. Now, as much as I adored Fallen Order, I really do feel as though Respawn could add a ton of new features to a sequel and make it even more engaging, replayable and more exciting overall. Now, the features I'm about to describe are not in any particular order of importance, but I do feel as though they would fit in well into a sequel. So the first thing I'd like to see in a Fallen Order sequel is more non-linear level design. Yes, Fallen Order, you can fully explore the map, which is great, but you pretty much have to follow these set paths in order to progress through the story. Now there are different cave systems, ledges and other builds that allow you to get to different places, and that's great. You know, I really do feel as though what we got in Fallen Order works really well for a single player action adventure like the game itself. However, if the map was more non-linear, for example, if we had like an urban location or something, I'd really like to be able to explore all the avenues and alleyways on offer and even traverse through the rooftops. Now in a forest environment, I don't want to be limited to set paths, and I want to be able to go in any direction I please and find things, be it side quests, collectibles, enemy encounters or whatever else is thrown at me during the game. The possibilities that a non-linear map provides is so much greater than what we got in Fallen Order, and I feel like people can obviously move around in any direction they want and just overall do more instead of going back and forth on the same paths over and over again. Just then I briefly mentioned urban locations, and that is also something I would love to see as well. Now I don't just mean little tiny villages here and there, but actual cities or spaceports, things like Mos Eisley for example. Like the non-linear map design, urban locations hold a lot of potential for features. You can meet a ton of new characters that offer you side quests or genuinely help towards the main story. You can buy stuff or even get just new experiences for the game. Fallen Order is very much quiet in the sense that you only see your enemies and other things like rebels on Kashyyyk and whatnot, but you know, having a ton of civilians walking around the place, interacting with each other or yourself and just being there provides a totally different feeling that we got from Fallen Order. Now I'm not saying civilians have to be in every single location within the game, but if we could get something where there's a big city or spaceport like Mos Eisley, I'm going to be using that as an example a lot today, then that would just be fantastic. I think the world building experiences as well that you can just get in that game would be fantastic. So I've already mentioned side quests quite a few times, so I'm going to discuss that now. Now I'm pretty sure that it was said that Fallen Order would have some side quests, and yet as far as I remember there were none. Now I'm not really complaining, I thought it was a fantastic game, it didn't really need any, but if we had these non-linear levels, the urban locations with sprawling with civilian life among many other things, then side missions would be amazing. Now I'm going to use Mos Eisley again for my example, but let's just say there's some guy in the cantina who has a mission for you. Maybe it's to find a lost pet womp rat. If that's even a thing, let's just say for the purposes that it is. So you accept this mission, then Cal can use his Force Echoes to aid him on his search and follow the path. Maybe it got stuck on a rooftop or through this narrow alleyway. Either way, that's already adding things to the gameplay experiences and the overall kind of lore and story to the game, as well as incorporating gameplay mechanics and rewarding the players, which I think is a really important aspect when looking into things like this. Speaking of rewards, this could be a wide range of things. Perhaps it's some materials or droid parts to craft new cosmetics or upgrades for BD1 and the Stinger Mantis, or maybe it's a whole new outfit for Cal, or it can simply just be a reward of credits. Possibilities here are truly endless for a game of this potential. So I just mentioned a few things like droid parts and credits, and you may be wondering, what good will they be? Well, I'll tell you. Droid parts could be used for upgrading BD1's abilities. There could be like a level system for that where you can upgrade certain aspects with these parts. Now these upgrades could make BD1 slice more things, for example, so to start with he could only be able to hack small door terminals, but then you could level up and that could allow him to slice enemy droids, and then another upgrade could then hack enemy vehicles to disable them. Now obviously this is simply just an example, but I think you get my point, and no, droid parts and credits would not be purchasable via microtransactions. Now onto the credits. What's the use of a currency like this? Well, I think it is pretty clear like most games, but I think it would be awesome to buy cosmetics at things like market vendors or purchase ship upgrades, maybe even buy parts from a scrapyard to upgrade BD1 or the ship as well. Again, the possibilities really are endless. Now obviously I've just mentioned market vendors and shops and things like that, so I think that would also work really nicely in an open world non-linear game like this. As I just said, you could buy cosmetics there, maybe even go to a cantina and buy a beverage, ship upgrades, BD1 upgrades, and much more. Urban locations and non-linear maps would prove very useful for features like this, as you could have like a market centre in Mos Eisley or other locations, or you could just have random stalls or people just popping up every now and again to sell you certain items. So at the moment I've focused a lot on the sort of things you might be able to do and see in the game, but now I'm going to focus more on the core gameplay and the potential we could see in a second game. So I've spoken a lot about having civilians around the place and general urban locations. Now I feel as though carrying a lightsaber around these parts and potentially having it ignited and slicing down stormtroopers would be a bit, well, it would probably be a little bit obvious and attention seeking, and the fact that you're a Jedi in that time where Jedi essentially should be extinct, obviously we know they're not, but all these other people won't know that, so I feel like the combat would be, a little bit hindered with this, or just kind of the overall experience might be a little bit ruined, so I feel as though it would be really good to have a blaster pistol. Now being able to use a blaster pistol would add even more to the core gameplay experience itself, and also adding new challenges and puzzle potential as well. Perhaps the Force or your lightsaber cannot reach a certain target to then open a door. All you need to do is whip out your blaster pistol, shoot the target, and you're away. Now it can also add more to combat scenarios. Perhaps there is a ton of heavy fire making you behind cover, so the first thing you have to do really is get out your blaster and shoot back. Maybe you've got this covering fire and then you can push towards them with your lightsaber and then cut them all down or something. That is just of course an example, but I really do feel as though blasters could add a lot more to the gameplay situations that you're put into. Speaking of gameplay situations, ship combat of some description would also add a lot more to the gameplay as well. We are fully aware that the Stinger Mantis has weapons, so why not be able to use them? Whether it's just a general gunnery position or if you can actually fly the ship around, having scenarios like this would add a lot more to the overall experience, but it also increases the amount of story potential as well. The only time we really see space in Fallen Order is when you're entering a planet or when in hyperspace or a cutscene or something. It would just be great to have some moments when TIE fighters are chasing you around in space and taking them all out, or if there's an Imperial shuttle that you need to take out as well. I just think that from these two moments you can tell a ton of different stories that I won't go into today, but the potential is certainly there. Now I feel as though this next one might be a bit more of a stretch, and it happens anyway in the first game to be fair with BD1, but I'd love to have companions that go around with you. Perhaps you can choose to take Merrin or Sia on a mission, or just in the open world with you to help out. BD1 will obviously stay and do all the things he does as well, but I just think it would be really great to have Sia by your side gunning down enemies, or Merrin using her magic to defeat what lies ahead. Again, this adds more to the overall gameplay experience, and it can add a lot more to the story and also help us learn more about these characters as well. Now you see this feature in Star Wars The Old Republic, the MMORPG game by BioWare, and I think it works really well. Your companion can heal you, you can attack your enemies, or you can just have cool interactions along the way, whether it's on the ship or in the open world. I really do feel as though that this would be a great thing to have in the game, as I'm sure Respawn will really want to expand on what they gave us with Fallen Order. They ended with the crew being as a true team, so I think it would be really nice to see what happens next and to dive into that companionship along in the open world exploration. So I've spoken a lot about the features I want to see and how I'd love to have more planets in the game and how I'd like them to be more non-linear. So on top of that, with all these new planets, I'd really like to see more types of enemies. Now everything we had from the first game I'd obviously like to see back in terms of the Empire, but I think it would be a really great chance for them to actually expand that Imperial roster, things like Death Troopers, Jump Troopers, more Walkers, and even just other vehicles like troop transports to take down as well. Now earlier I obviously spoke about blasters being a thing for Cal to use, so perhaps he can take out a Jump Trooper via his blaster, or even a companion can shoot him instead. Like I said, these things do genuinely add a lot more to the potential gameplay experience, and perhaps you could even take Grease out and he could maybe have explosives to help you take down vehicles easier. as I said before, the potential really is endless. Now, with regards to enemies, I'd also like to see a lot less of a focus on animals and plant-based enemies as well. I totally understand why it's a thing, but it's not really something I tend to enjoy as much as fighting humanoids. Now, why that is, I genuinely have no idea, but in Fallen Order, I always really enjoyed fighting the Empire and the Night Brothers and the Haxian Brood, though going against a Jotaz, a Philak, or even a Nidak, I just never really seemed to enjoy it as much, and sometimes I just found them really annoying. Now, I have absolutely no issue with these things being in the future of Jedi Fallen Order kind of sequels and games, and I think it is obviously really cool to see them as well, but I just want to see more Imperials, as mentioned before, as well as like other bounty hunters, maybe crime syndicates, droid mercenaries, or going back to Tatooine as my example, Tusken Raiders. Okay, so that's all been about the story, the endgame, general things to do within a single player game. However, I feel as though this last thing can really add a lot of value, replayability, and also allow people to better connect to people through the game, and that is multiplayer duels. Now, I'm obviously not expecting a full-blown multiplayer experience, and I don't really think the game suits that, but I think the combat is absolutely fantastic and could genuinely work perfectly for a dueling mode. Whether it's a 1v1 or a 2v2 or even a 4 versus 4, private matches also would be essential with this though, as I know many people will want to duel with their friends, and things like our very own Battlefront duels would also be able to have a system where people can play against each other, set up actual tournaments and events that will work better with this system, and of course you'd also be able to matchmake publicly and wreck some noobs online. The choice would of course be yours. Now, I'm not expecting anything like this to happen, but it would be great. Now, in terms of characters to play, I think it would be amazing to play as just the Jedi and Sith from the first and second game, and also have skins for them as well. Like Sia, for example, she could ultimately have her outfit from the Jedi robes that we also see in Fallen Order, as well as the outfit she also wears in that game, and anything else she wears in the second title. I also think this would lead to a lot of potential for post-launch content by adding other light side and dark side users from around the timeline. People like Luke, Kylo, Plo Koon, or even Darth Maul and other things like that. Now, I'm obviously thinking that this is a very pretty idea, but it would be highly unlikely. At a minimum though, I would love to see a multiplayer dueling mode. The Fallen Order battle grid already shows that a dueling mode and arena style can work with AI, but I really think it would be time to push that one further with multiplayer. So to summarise, the top 10 features I would like to see in a Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order sequel are as follows. More non-linear level design with more explorable planets, urban locations with civilian life, side quests, upgradable level system for BD1 and the Stinger Mantis, market vendors to buy cosmetics, ship parts, BD1 parts, etc., a blaster, ship combat, companions, more and new enemies types with a smaller focus on animals and plant-based enemies, and lastly a multiplayer dueling mode. Now let me know in the comments below what you guys think of my top 10 features. Do you agree with them? What else would you like to see instead in a Fallen Order sequel? That is it from me today though. Do not forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already so you don't miss out on any more videos like this one. Thank you all very much for watching, and may the Force be with you always.